Hello, hello. I just wanted to jump in and record a really quick introduction to this week's podcast guest. Elkin Antinou was there when the Dream Lab course began, along with Chelsea, and she joins the podcast today to share how her dream of writing, directing, and choreographing musical theater has led her to her destiny. What began for her in the Dream Lab course and her just taking baby steps actually evolved over time into her God-ordained purpose of living out the way she is made and what she was meant for. She shares that in the last 10 or so years, pursuing her dream has helped her to build her confidence to carry the fullness of who God made her to be and what she's been called to do. For her, the Dream Lab course required focused intentionality to answer the question, what do you see yourself doing? She stresses the importance of carving out time and doing these exercises in community and how life-altering it has been for her to live with greater intentionality. She shares similar stories that also illustrate what Chelsea had spoken about, and that is that the pursuit of your dreams doesn't always unfold like you think it will. She stresses the importance of not waiting to discover your dreams and how they fit your divine design. See where your dreams lead and take that first step, or you will never know. Great advice from one of my greatest encouragers. I know you're going to love her as much as I do. Hello, dear ones. Welcome to the Dream Lab, a safe, inspiring place for you and God to dream without limits what you most desire to be, do, and have in your life right now. Every episode, I hold space for you to be irreplaceably you, to explore your unique design and discover your dreams as a reflection of God's heart for the world around you. I am your host, your guide, your encourager-in-chief, Christina B. Come on in to the Dream Lab. Hello, lovelies. Welcome back to another episode of the Dream Lab podcast. You are in for a treat. I have the second person who was there at the very beginning at the first Dream Lab course, Elkin Antinou, and you are going to love her as much as I do. Last week, we heard Chelsea's story and how she is living her dreams on a day-to-day basis, and now we're going to hear from Elkin. Welcome to the show, Elkin.
Thank you, Christina. You're the best.
Oh my gosh. You know I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. It's all your fault.
Oh my gosh. All right, fine. I'll take it.
I'm just kidding. Oh my goodness. Elkin is one of the greatest encouragers in my life. And this show would not have given birth if it wasn't for her, especially last summer. For those of you who have listened to the show since the beginning, when I had a summer off in summer of 2024, is when Elkin said, it's time. You have some time now. You need to revisit this. So I was like, you're right.
It's true. I am your biggest fan. I truly am. I'm your biggest fan. I believe in what you're doing. I believe in the Dream Lab so completely. And I do believe it's for everyone and it's necessary. So I'm so grateful you're doing this. I'm such an advocate of your dreams and who you are because it's so important.
Oh, I love you so much. I want to hug you.
You too. I know. It's great.
Okay, well, we're going to open the show. I just want to hear, what does it mean to dream?
Oh my gosh, these are such great questions. Especially now because we're almost 10 years after we started this journey together. And a lot of growth happens in 10 years, a lot of growth. And so for me personally, I feel like I've been on a journey of going past dreams to an understanding of destiny. And I feel like dreams are such a necessary part of going deeper and getting to, okay, what is the deepest part of like God's plan and purpose for my life? Like what is written before time for me that takes so much to tap into, and there's so much waste along the way. And so I think dreams are like the pinnacle point and marker to lead us to these deeper levels of destiny, and they are intertwined and they are such an important part. And even Chelsea and I had this conversation about the musical Marion, which I know we'll talk about later, but we had to make a distinction between dreams and destiny because for Marion's life there was a point of distinction. And so I've had this on the brain a lot lately. So but without dreams, you can have no destiny. So I think it's uber important.
Ooh, I can't wait to hear your thoughts on that. Really.
It's part of the
In the
growth process.
Oh gosh, yeah, and you've definitely gone through a lot of growth. You've gone through
Hmm.
seasons where you've had to lay things down
Oh
and
yeah.
let God breathe them back to life for sure.
Hmm.
Um, so how do dreams feed your destiny then? So just share with me what your definition of dreams is. In the Dream Lab, I titled it this for a reason. So dream
Yeah.
means anything in its ideal state, like not lacking anything. And then lab has this sense of like you get to experiment, you get to observe, you get to try things without a lot of risk or commitment in the early stages, just figuring out like what is it I do want. And the idea that dreams can change in seasons of life.
Yes.
So in your world and in your heart, what does it mean to dream and how do those feed your destiny?
I feel like that's the journey that I've been on because, and I don't know if we're like jumping ahead, but
Go ahead.
I'll just jump in.
I'm here for it.
Okay. Um, because when we did our session, there, I feel like the biggest point for me was I'd had this dream of theater for so long and I had already started sort of walking it out. I mean, I'd lived it as a kid. I was a professional performer. I had a level of success, at a high level of success in terms of, I was in first class productions of Phantom of the Opera and like I knew I'd accomplished something that you don't accomplish unless you have some form of talent and some form of devotion and dedication. And I'd put in years and years of discipline as a professional ballet dancer and musical theater performer to achieve that. And then I moved into film with my husband. And of course, I was always seeking putting family first. Um, and so by the time I hit 40, I was like, oh, wait, I miss theater. Like I literally turned 40 in New York and saw a woman carrying what in my mind was her dance bag to the theater. Like this was the story. Like it was like right around theater time. And I saw this woman and she looked like a performer and she had a little bag. And I'm like, she's going to the theater. And something in me went, oh, I'm not done. And something else in me
Ooh.
said, oh, wait, I'm 40 and life and God is big enough to balance my love of theater, my first love of theater, because I'd been holding it since I was a child, and my love of film, which I was pursuing with my husband. So it wasn't until I hit this, pinnacle point later in life that I went, wow, I need to come get back in touch with my theater dreams. And we did the course like I'd already started at that point when we did the course. I was kind of already en route, but the the dream that I had been afraid to pursue, which came out on my list of 5, was directing and choreographing theater. I had been pursuing, like, producing theater. I'd taken some courses, I was going to see the theater all the time and educating myself so I could be advanced in my understanding of what space the theater was holding in the world. Um, but I had not had the real courage to say, "This is something I wanna do, and I'm going to take my first step and pursue it." And after our lab, I did. I'm going to come full circle with the dream to destiny, but this is like the genesis of it. So after our lab, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I've got to do this. This is on my list. I have to actually step out and pursue what it means to, carry this deep love of or desire, this deep dream to direct and choreograph theater." And so I remember very specifically Chelsea was taking a musical theater class. And I knew that in that class, I could come as a performer, but I could actually come and direct and choreograph. Um, and so I remember auditing the class, and at the end of the class, I handed over a check, and it was like, "Oh my gosh, this is it." It was so scary. It was so scary because I'm like, "This is my first step." And he'd even said in his introduction, he quoted some fantastic quote, which and I can't remember who it was, but essentially saying, "If you take the first step, everything else will follow." And so I remember that was a very monumental moment in taking this first step. And I did it. And I kept taking more steps, and then I joined the actor's studio, and I learned under my own father, who was Lou Antonio, the great Lou Antonio, who is a seasoned Emmy, nominated director and started on Broadway and, like, started the Actors Studio West. So I came and learned under him for, like, 5 years at the actor's studio. I started just exercising this hidden talent, this hidden desire, and at the same time was moving forward with Marion as a producer and as a writer. And I got to the point where I I knew that I could only accomplish so much with this dream of directing and choreographing because it really needed to be something that I think started earlier. I learned that there was a confidence level and a leadership level that maybe wasn't in my wheelhouse, and I also learned something about myself that I am really great at collaboration, and I'm really a great support system to other people. I'm really good at that. It's a natural thing. And so there's a through the course of this last 9 years, I, like, pursued it with everything in me and then had to kind of let it die and go, "Wow, I wonder if this has become like an idol.
Mm. Wow.
I wonder if this has become because I wait so long and then it became an idol?" And also in exercising the pursuit of that dream, I realized I'm not sure if that's my destiny because I actually do feel like I'm walking out my destiny right now. So I had to surrender it. I had to die to it. And in doing that, it opened up what I do feel like is the truth of who I am and what I'm made for and how I'm made to carry my destiny and to carry like what God has planned and purposed for me. So there's sadness in the depth of it, but had I not experienced that, I wouldn't be where I am now, where I am actually fully satisfied in what I'm walking out, in a deeper understanding of how I'm made and in a deeper understanding of what I'm meant for. So I guess my advice in that, like, is start sooner,
Yes, my
right?
stars.
Start sooner.
My
Like
stars.
like,
Start
that's
now,
why
don't wait.
that's why the lab is so important because I had been carrying that and almost like this mystical thing, you know, that I hadn't explored. I was afraid to explore it. I was afraid to like and yes, I know I have talent in these areas and that was acknowledged and that was great, you know? And also I know that the talent I had in those areas and the work that I did, none of it was wasted. Not a single drop was wasted in terms of exercising that pursuit of that dream because it has strengthened me and made me better in all the areas that I am called to pursue. So my advice is do the lab sooner so that you can really get a sense of what you're made for. And I think some things you have to test out. You have to try. Like you said, it's a lab, right?
Yes.
You have to test out if that dream is truly part of your destiny.
Mhm.
That's been my journey. Is get these last 10 years is like I've tested all these areas and like tested under fire. So tested under fire, and now it's refined. And 10 years later, I'm like, okay, I have now a stronger understanding, and I know that'll continue to develop the rest of my life. I have a stronger understanding of who I am and what I'm made for. And it may be that in another 10 years, that dream comes back, but it'll come back sanctified.
Mhm.
It'll come back purified. It's not going to hold any kind of idol as an idol in my life, because unless I can be pure in what I'm doing, unless I can be sanctified, I don't want it. And unless I can know that like this is God's true divine design for me, I don't want it. And so that process was very important for me.
Mm.
Very painful, but very important. And and very necessary. Um and so I do, but the interesting thing was the other parts of my list, and we were trying to remember what they were. And I do think you guys remembered family and the directing, but based on like the state of my life at the time, I'm almost positive that two of the other three were theater producing and film producing.
Probably, yeah, knowing what
Yeah,
I know of you.
yeah. I don't remember the fifth,
If
but
you have the notebook, golly, I
I
would love to see.
I have to I save all my journals, but I have so many, so I have to go back and find this one. I will for a later podcast. But the interesting thing is the theater directing dream was the journey I just shared, but the family producing theater and producing film has been like a true trajectory towards my destiny
Mhm.
in the most remarkable way. So so 3 out of the 5 have blossomed and been like, now a decade later, I feel like I'm in full bloom,
Mm. So good.
and I've really worked through so many insecurities. I've really found more confidence where it's surrendered confidence, where it's not necessarily in me where I have to prove something, but it's confidence in the sense of this is who I am and this is how God made me. And with an understanding of that, I can walk uprightly and I can present to you what I have to offer in truth and humility. Um, and so, yeah, because the other side of that, I know one of that was family, and that's been a beautiful journey because I'm a grandmother to be now, and getting to that place, I feel like I've fully stepped in to my destiny because I
Mhm.
feel like, wow, I was really made to be a grandmother. Like I have owned this. I love this. I'm a yaya, which
Oh.
is Greek for grandmother. And that's been a really truly glorious revelation. So like the family thing feel like it has come full circle in my understanding of the richness of being a wife and a mom and now a yaya. Um, and in terms of like film producing and theater producing, I like the ground I'm standing on because I feel whole.
Mm.
And so the 10 years has really it's really been a brilliant, beautiful, yet painful journey. It's a process along the way. It's truly a process, day
Mm.
by day by day, you know? I'm sorry, I think I've answered like 16 of your questions in one.
You have that's good. We're gonna unpack some of that, but I just
Okay.
wanted to clarify, I don't wanna put words in your mouth. What
Yeah.
I think I heard you saying was, for you, directing musical theater was something that you had put on the shelf because you were too afraid to explore it,
Yeah.
and in the exploration of it, it could have turned out that that was just a dream for a season for you to lead you to something else.
Mhm.
But in the process of you just taking those baby steps and exploring it and stepping into it, you actually learned through laying it down and not wanting it to be an idol. God gave it back to you, and it's not just a dream, it's really part of your destiny.
It is, and it just took a different form.
Okay.
It took a different form. I feel like the skills and the talents inside of me that I think do make a good choreographer, a good director. What I have discovered is I'm using those as a producer, as a writer. It's
Mm,
how I write. Like the fact that I can see on the stage, I can see musicals like in my mind so clearly. I can visually see what's happening on the stage. And so as a writer, um, I'm translating what I see, which is a direct result of the a choreography and director vision. And
mm,
so I have to translate that to put it on the page and then hand it off to our director to then make it come to life. But w there's a skill in that, in kind of being able to step into a room and lead an entire company
mhm.
towards getting that vision on its feet, that I find very intimidating.
Interesting.
Mhm. And so that's when I was saying, like, I'm much better in collaboration. I'm much
Mhm.
better as a support system. And it could have been that had I started this sooner, I would have found a means to direct and choreograph at that level that worked, like, in collaboration with someone. I would imagine that would be the perfect scenario for me. So that's why I'm like, I'm not taking it off the table that at some point in my life I may do it. But
Right.
this journey, I think most importantly, was the revolution and revelation of who I am, how I'm made, and making sure that I'm not carrying anything above God, like making sure that everything in my life is surrendered
Mhm.
and is sanctified. And Marion has been the musical, that has been the process for that too. I've laid that on the altar.
Mhm.
It's killed me plenty of times, like
Yes, I
I
do.
have died
I
many
remember.
times. So I think that's an important process, making sure that something is not higher, so
Mhm.
high that it's controlling you.
Mm. Yeah, that you're living your dreams and your dreams aren't it's not the tail wagging the dog, so to speak.
Mhm, mhm. It's
Yeah,
surrendered,
so
and
good.
yeah.
You touched on something that I did a whole episode on, and that is your imagination is your spiritual womb. And Chelsea
Mm.
articulated this beautifully in her episode too, where she said that dreaming really necessitates that you be able to see something different, like a different reality than what you're living now, something
Yeah.
different for the future that you hope for. And then you actually like take it from internal to external where you begin, like taking the baby steps towards
Mhm,
something. And
mhm.
that's where like the magic really happens. So for her, she made the distinction between like dreaming, meaning internal more so, and then living it day to day, being more practical.
Yes.
You like being able to see what you need to translate to the page as a writer, um, being able to see it in your mind's eye first and seeing the actors dance it out or sing it out or what have you, I think is really beautiful because what we can see there, we can create. That's the
Yes.
beauty of our imagination and why it's so
Yes.
important that we um, really guard that because it's so powerfully creative. It is the most powerfully creative part of us, essentially.
So true. So true. And I think, going back to our experience with the lab together, like when you had us do those exercises where we had to kind of imagine our life and be intentional. I think what was so remarkable about that time together was the focused intentionality of what do you see and what does that look like? And and having to really carve it out and you know, like a sculpture, and carve around the edges and go, okay, what is the core of this? And whittle it down. And it wasn't we had to be intentional. And I think
Yeah.
very rarely in life do we take time to do that. Do we take time to be intentional about our wants, our desires, our dreams, our destiny, our purpose, God's plans?
Yeah.
And this was like carved out intentional time in community being led. It's hard to do this on your own.
It
Like,
really is. Yeah.
really hard to do this on your own. I don't think it would have ever happened if it was like, "Hey, Elkin, you should try this."
I still chuckle because the two of you were such eager participants. I was like, I don't know. It's a little bit of a half-baked potato. You guys want to do this thing? And you both were like, sure.
It was so important. I mean, it really was. It was so I really do feel like it was a pivotal moment,
Yeah.
that without it, this journey, this last almost decade I can't even imagine what it would look like. Honestly, I can't. I really can't. Because I feel like it would have been so easy to get off track. And I look at Chelsea's life too. I was like, it's remarkable how she has stuck to that list, And what's been really fun for me, because we've been in collaboration for these last 9 years, and I've been so intimately a part of her journey. I've watched her grow, like, just monumentally, in terms of her confidence taking
Hmm.
steps, her
Yep.
confidence taking steps, her confidence taking steps, making decisions, and she is absolutely born and breathed and bred to do what she's doing right now. It
Yeah,
is
I agree.
so clear. And I remember when we first started, she wasn't wearing that confidence yet. And now she's fully running in it. Like, the talent was always there, but it needed to be exercised and walked out. And now, honestly, like, it's just so exciting to see what's inside of her coming out at just rapid fire, you know?
Yeah.
And it just grows and grows and grows. Like, her talent has grown and grown and grown each step of the way. And it's been the seedlings of what was already always there that she talked about, like, with her dad and going to the theater and this
Yeah.
love and this and that. And I've just literally been watching the tree grow.
Yes. I
Literally
think
watching the tree grow.
for each of you, my observation was you each had something that was precious to you in musical theater that you had put on a shelf for whatever
Mhm.
reason,
Mhm.
that you had tucked away as either not possible or, you know, well-meaning people in your lives maybe had said that's not a viable way to earn a living for whatever reason. And in this process, you each discovered that, oh gosh, I need to take this off of the shelf. Like God really wants to do something with it right now. What I think I admire about each of you, watching you from the sidelines through, oh, and not from the sidelines, because I have been part of this with you. Our trip to Philadelphia and New York City, which I want to share a quick story about. Um, Watching each of you and walking alongside of the two of you, it could have been that this was only for a season to lead you to something else.
Mhm.
But in the course of it, you each have discovered you were born for this.
Yes.
Um, and I think that's the beauty of it. And the beauty of doing these exercises, maybe annually or maybe even every 2 years, to refine what is this season of my life about for me. And I think the beauty of what each of you discovered was this is so much ingrained in your DNA and in your early life experiences that this really is your destiny, that you are moving forward with is always going to be a part of your lives in some way.
Yes, and
I
I
love
think
that.
specifically with Marion for me, because going back to imagination, I'm not able to really see beyond that right now, beyond Marion.
Mhm.
But what has been so clear about Marion is no matter what, this musical needed to be made.
Mhm.
And it started for me 20 years ago. Like, the seed for wanting to make this musical started 20 years ago. And even if all the lessons, all the work, everything that I tried and maybe it didn't flesh out, all of it is worth it to end with this. Like if it all of that holds Marion, the completion of Marion,
Mm-hmm.
that is enough. Because
Mm-hmm.
I know that this musical is part of my destiny.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that for a fact. And I'm really honored and humbled by that. Like I was just like imagining one day, when I go home to heaven that I will meet Marian Anderson and I will get to be able to, you know, be the one that told her story, was part of telling her story and the one of the reasons why her story was told. And so that is a very precious thing to me. And yes, I will probably have to do another Dream Lab when Marion wins a Tony.
You can actually do it now because you are living 2 of your 5. So I would be super curious to see, now that you have fully embodied those 2 things, your family and musical theater, what of the other 3 maybe aren't for this season, and what
Well, in
would
the
show
film
up
one
in
too,
your top 5, in the
my top 5.
remaining. Yeah.
I would need to see what the 2 are because family, theater, and film are
Mhm.
definitely thriving right now.
Yeah, I love
Definitely
that.
thriving in their refined form.
So how would you describe the journaling and the visioning process? You touched on it a little bit, and you mentioned
Mhm.
that it's really important that we do that together. Is there
Yes.
anything else you wanna say about that process for you?
It was really invigorating because it exercised parts of my brain that I hadn't tapped into. It exercised parts of
Ooh.
my imagination I hadn't tapped into, and I
Uh-huh.
hadn't given myself permission to touch. And so it was within a very safe space doing it
Yeah.
with you. And like I said, the intentionality of it, the focus, I think was very key. The community was very key because then you're also held accountable,
Yeah.
right? I could have done that on my own. And then who's going to say, hey, Elkin, like, are you taking any steps? I had Chelsea there to say, hey, here's a step you can take,
I remember that. Oh my gosh,
right?
I drove you. Your car was in the shop or something, and Chelsea was like, "Hey, here's this musical theater class that you can take as a director."
Yep.
And you signed up for it, and then your car was in the shop, and I drove you to that class, and I remember I remember watching you walk away from my car in North Hollywood into the theater doors, and I was like, these 2 are totally gonna make this musical." Like,
Yeah.
wow, holy moly. I was so shocked and still, like, humbled in a good way at every person I have taken through the Dream Lab has some really drastic and life-altering aha moment where the light bulb goes off. They take a step, God meets them where they are, and then all of a
Mhm.
sudden their lives change. Like, one of my friends, she picked up and moved to another city, like, 2 months after
Oh my
we
goodness.
finished the Dream Lab, and I remember because she was one of my coworkers, and I remember hugging her on her last day in the office, and I was crying, and she was like, I said, "I'm gonna miss you in the office, so I'm gonna miss you so much. You're not gonna be at my left shoulder anymore." And she was like, I just wanna remind you, this is kinda your fault. You took me through the dream lab, and now I'm like, I'm taking a step towards what I want." And I was like, "You're right, I know, I'm sorry. Like, go forth, be happy, and, like, I love you so much." But it was just funny.
That's fantastic.
Every single person has had some sort of aha
Yeah.
moment where they took a step and then something shifted really powerfully for them, like, in the physical realm, like, in
Mhm.
their physical life.
Mhm.
So,
That first
um,
step is key. That first step is
yes.
truly key
And that's
because
not a big step for most
no,
people.
no, but I remember it like it's very clear and clean in my mind, like writing that check for that class. Like I remember like this is it. Like this is the step, you
Yes.
know? And the other step I took which was actually really beautiful was to join the Actors Studio
Mhm.
and be a part of that with my dad. And my dad's now 91, and you know, the studio closed during the pandemic. So I had 5 years of being 4 to 5 years, because I joined the actor studio right after our Dream Lab too.
Wow.
And I think I did the musical theater class first, and then I did the actor studio. And I did so much work there. And I went there specifically to learn from my father, who is just legacy. And I took his director class. I only took his classes. I took his acting classes. I wasn't on the stage, but there as an observer, as a director. How did he work with actors? And I learned under his tutelage for 5 years, which was so sacred because it was
Oh
my
my
dad,
gosh.
and I got to
Yeah.
see him in his environment. And then he hasn't really been back since, the studio closed all that time. And now he's 91. And so had I not taken these steps with you, I wouldn't have had that experience with my father, which is so sacred. And I really love the work I did at the studio. Like I really
Yeah.
like that was actually a place where it was so much fun to create, and it was a way of creating that I would have continued doing. Like that's the way I could see myself doing it if I ever circle around back to this in some point in my future, because it was very collaborative.
Mm.
It was, like, really organic. It was all about the people and the nurturing of relationships, and we were creating really unique, beautiful pieces of art, and I loved it. I really, really grew a lot. I still have friendships that I will carry with me from that time, and I had that time with my dad, so it was very important.
Mm. Oh gosh, Elkin, that is so beautiful.
Yeah.
To think that a baby step
Mhm.
gave you and in retrospect, I mean, we always have the benefit of hindsight, but in retrospect, you got 5 years learning under your dad, who is a legend in this
Yes.
area.
Yes.
5 saturated years in this industry that you love and now have determined and discerned through walking it out is part of your destiny. You have
Mhm.
something, oh my gosh. I hope I get to meet your dad. I got to meet your mom in New York. I hope I get to meet your papa.
Oh, yeah, he's just fantastic. He's so
Oh
special.
my gosh.
So
Okay.
special.
Thank you for
Alright.
sharing that because I don't think people realize that a baby step can lead you to something, a
Mhm.
blessing so huge and life altering that you wouldn't want your life to be without it.
Yes, and again, I think that also leads back to this phenomenon that the pursuit of dreams is a journey, and
Mhm.
it doesn't always, I'm not gonna say often, it doesn't always look the way you imagine,
Yes.
and you don't always get out of it what you first perceive and think you're gonna get out of it. So,
Yes.
that particular, arm my of my dreams, and it is good to talk about, like, there were 5. We can't remember the 5th, but there were 5. And this particular arm was the most unique journey for me, because and it was, I think, the area where I needed the most refining, and had I not pursued it, I wouldn't have had that opportunity. And also, like what we just described, it led to things I wasn't imagining, like this
Mm.
time with my dad
Yeah.
that I wouldn't change for anything,
Oh gosh, no,
and
you would never trade that.
and relationships that came up because of it. Um, and so it looked different than I thought it would, but
Yeah.
I think that's really part of the process.
Yeah.
And also how because I honestly, I never dreamed about being a writer and a producer. I never dreamed about that as a kid. Like the only thing I ever held as a kid was choreography, directing. Like I didn't know that it could look like writing, producing. So my childhood sense looks different as an adult, but also that was part of the growth process, because I needed these skills that I dreamed about to do what I'm doing now. I'm going to say that again. I needed these skills that I dreamed about to do what I'm doing now that I know is part of my destiny. So again, it didn't look like what I imagined, but I'm at peace, and there's a wholeness in walking it out that I'm really grateful for, because I have been transformed along the process and along the
Mm,
journey.
so beautiful. Yeah, I think that's how we cannot we cannot possibly account for when we take the baby step. Like, how is God going to meet us? How are
Mhm.
those little synchronicities of life going to give us something even better that we couldn't have imagined at the beginning? And
Yes.
how kind of God to put you put you in a workshop with your dad for 5 years,
Yes.
to not only give you quality time with him in that world, but to boost your confidence in ways that you really needed to
Mhm.
carry it from where you are now, which I think is just stunning. I love it. I love all of that story because it's really, and story better than anybody. Like, you could not have possibly written this.
Never. Never.
I mean,
No.
looking back now, you can write it because you can see the steps, but
Mhm.
you were just taking a baby step. You signed up for the class, then you signed up for the actor studio. Like, those things that seem so little and inconsequential in the moment actually turn out to be your greatest gifts.
So true.
I love that so much. Okay,
Mm.
so we have to visit because this for Chelsea was like the biggest thing for her. Do you remember when we did some visioning and then we all wrote down what we saw, and then we each went away and did a brainstorm of like, what is it that you want to do as a result of what you saw in your vision? We wrote that down just like, scripture tells us to do.
Yes.
And then we came back with a list of present tense, powerful, like, I am statements. When I'm living my life, the life God made me to live, I'm doing these things. And we each came back with pretty big lists.
So good.
And then we had to refine the list.
Oh,
I
so
know it is
painful.
the most challenging part for everyone who's gone
So
through it because it
painful.
feels like you're practically like cutting off one of your fingers. But
Seriously.
how was that process for you? And what did that process yield? Because I'll share with you my perspective of yours in particular, but I
Oh
want to
my
hear
gosh.
you say it first.
Oh, I wanna hear you say it first. Um, that I just remember it, yeah, it was so painful because they all felt important. They all felt like, wow, like you were literally, like, removing babies. Like, it was like, "What? How do I whittle this down from 10 to 5? These are all necessary. These are all important in my life, and I care about them all. I care about them all. Like,
Yeah.
I have emotion around them all, and, you know, and reasoning around them all. They're not frivolous. And so to have to take that from 10 to 5, I just remember it being so painful, just so
Yeah.
painful and shocking. Do you want me to tell the story about the
I just remember after that, you went off the high dive.
I
I
did.
think I think this process is challenging because when you take the cork off and you say permission granted to dream really big and nothing is out of bounds, like there's nothing off the table.
Yeah.
It almost like releases a pressure valve. And for each of us in that season, I think we all came back with lists way longer than 10. Like, Chelsea had like 20 things on her list.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And I think I had close to 20 on mine. Because in creating the workshop last year, in refining it and putting it all in one PowerPoint document, I went back through my list and I had almost 20 on mine.
Oh my, I'm sure I did too.
Yeah, our lists were pretty big, and whittling it down to 5, that part took a long time, and that's when we went from daylight to dark at your house in your living room. Like, the sun went down, and we were still going.
Oh my gosh.
But I remember, distinctly each of us going through that process with each other. Like, we all took turns leading each other through that process, which was so sweet.
Mhm.
But in the end, asking if you could only do one and never the other was so helpful because it forced you to dig deeper into your heart.
Yes.
what do I want right now? What is the most important in this season of life? And I think that's really important for people to hear because it doesn't mean that you're going to do this forever.
Right.
It could be something that you do for a season that leads you to something else that is more important. It could be, and dreams don't have to necessarily be something really big. Like it happened to be for you and Chelsea. It could be something as simple as like, I want to learn a new language or I want to learn how to crochet. Like I would just want to be creative in some small way. So I just want people to be really clear that it doesn't have to be life altering. You're quitting your job and taking on this. You're going to write a Broadway musical and you're starting tomorrow. It doesn't have to be that. For Chelsea and Elkin, it was. It could be something smaller, but you only have 24 hours in a day. 8 of those, you're sleeping. If you have a full-time job, you're working for 8. And then if you have a commute and you live in a city like Los Angeles, you are adding 2 or 3 hours to your day. And then you have family time. If you have kids, you're adding like all those kinds of responsibilities. So the reality is you probably only have a solid 5, maybe 10 hours a week, depending on your energy levels and other things going on in your life. If you're also caring for an aging parent or something else, you really only have a good 5 to 10 hours a week solidly that you can pursue. You can't pursue a dozen things at one time. It's just, I don't think it's humanly possible. And I think when you kind of try to aim at everything, you really end up hitting nothing. So that process was, let me just share with the audience, Elkin, when she looked at her top 5, I remember you were sitting on the floor and you had your arms wrapped around your knees and you were like, wow, okay, I love my top 5. I really feel like they resonate with my heart and they resonate with my soul. Like this is what I need to focus my time and attention on in this season. And the nonprofit organization that we love and we're working on together is not in my top 5. So I need to step back from that. And Chelsea and I,
Yes.
we looked at each other and we were like, oh, snap. We did not anticipate.
Because I brought you guys into it.
Yes, you did. And we were like, let's do this thing. Because we loved it. This nonprofit was doing just gorgeous work with youth in junior high and high school that we just loved the mission. And yet it wasn't in Elkin's top 5 for that season. And so she honored the commitment she just made in doing the Dream Lab exercises and saying, I cannot devote time to that any longer. It's not the center of the center, as Chelsea said. And you stepped back. And I had the utmost respect for you in making that commitment.
Which was so hard though, because I had taken a step of leadership and brought you and Chelsea into it because I believe in it so wholeheartedly. I still do. And I want to circle back to what you were saying about seasons, because I know for me, and it's actually really fun getting older because you actually can look back and see seasons. You can actually see, what you've committed to and what life has looked like over the years, over the decades, right? And I know for me, I've always kind of held this space and love for education, the arts, and creative activism. And I've struggled juggling all those things. And one of the things that I really love about the Dream Lab is if you're anyone like me and you actually hold space for lots of passion,
Yes.
it can help you focus for that season.
Yes.
And I still love education. Like Marion will have has education programs attached to it. I still honor this nonprofit like so much. Like my heart just tugs for them all the time. But and I still love creative activism. But I love now being able to find space for what is God has called for that season, knowing that there's opportunity for things to come back at other moments and other places in time. And like, for instance, if right now I'm in a new season where I'm going to be a grandmother, and I had this thing hit me where my daughter wanted to do Sunday dinners. It's a family tradition. and we haven't done it in a while
Oh,
because my dad would cook them, and he's not capable of that anymore at his age, and so it's like a multi-generational family tradition. My father started Sunday dinners because it was sacred time for him
yeah.
during the Depression, like, the Depression era that he grew up, because it was his time with his family around the dinner table. And he started it when my yaya moved on the block, um, back in the late 80s. And we had family dinners at his house up until, like, it stopped maybe 4 years ago. And when my daughter got pregnant, she's like, "Mom, I wanna start the Sunday dinner family tradition again." And I'm like, "Great. Your brother's a chef, your husband's a chef, and I'm sure they'll cook." And she's like, "No, I want you to cook."
Oh, no.
Yeah. And I'm like, "Oh, you mean the 6 meals that I would make over and over and over again during your childhood? Because I."
Bolognese.
Yeah, and I always wanted to be a gourmet. I always wanted to be a cook, but I didn't have the time, capacity, or
Mhm.
confidence to do it in their childhood. And one of the beautiful, glorious things about becoming a grandmother and talking about seasons in this moment of time, when she said that, something shifted in me. And had I been doing the Dream Lab, I would have put on my list, become a chef, become a gourmet cook. But I've done that already. I'm not a gourmet cook yet, but something shifted where I went, "This is important for this season right now.
Mhm.
I need to learn to cook. This is something I've always wanted to do, and I'm gonna be a yaya. My daughter's asking this of me. This is important, and I'm going to make space and time." And it actually really does take a lot of space and time.
Yeah.
And I have loved every second of it. I'm baking scones.
Oh my god.
I'm like now known for my scones throughout the entire family, and I am cooking Sunday dinners and taking all afternoon to prep. I'm watching cooking shows, and it has
Oh.
been so liberating and so incredible. And so with for this season, this has made my top 5. I am becoming Chef Yaya, and I love it so much, and it is a priority. It is
Yeah.
absolutely a priority on my top 5, and without taking the Dream Lab, but it was like a supernatural, like, shift. I'm like, "I can do this. I will do this. I'm going to learn to cook."
Well, I think it's actually, I mean, in all fairness, one of your top 5 from the Dream Lab was that you just really wanted to love and care for and nurture your family very deeply.
Yes.
And so the cooking is that.
Yes.
You're creating this space that and carrying on a tradition where you gather as a family. You're being very intentional about it. The cooking is
Mhm.
just the skill that you're adding on top of that.
Very wise, yes.
So you are living out.
I'm living out one of my 5, yes,
Yes.
which will be ongoing till the rest of my
Yes,
days,
yes, yes,
but
exactly. It's just
but
taking on a new
now
form right now.
it's taking on a new form because I'm a yaya, and so
You're known for your scones. That's so
Oh,
funny. Oh my gosh. Okay. How would you describe the Dream Lab course?
how would I describe it?
Yep.
Wow, that's a great question. How would I describe it? Um, the Dream Lab course is an opportunity to be quietly intentional within community to pursue the deepest desires of your heart and get to the core of what you're made for, who you are, and what your purpose is, so that you can begin to pursue it with excellence and with grace and with an understanding that it's a journey and it will continue to change and transform as you grow.
Mm, so good. Who do you think the Dream Lab course is for?
Everyone. I mean, everyone who
I actually
isn't
agree with
already,
that. Yeah.
yeah, everyone who isn't already, you know, pursuing their dreams,
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is I'm just going to stick with everyone, because honestly, even if you're on a really steady course and an intentional course in life,
Mhm.
I think we all need to stop and be still and be quiet and just check in, you know? Like, where am I in life right now?
Yeah.
Because even like with me, like being able to redefine a dream and sanctify it, you know?
Mhm.
Um, someone who thinks they've got it all figured out may need to just stop and be still
Yeah.
and sanctify that, and see if there's something missing, right? Like, we all want shalom, shalom, nothing missing, nothing lacking.
Right.
This pursuit of wholeness in life is very intentional. And and it I don't it cannot be done alone. I do think it needs to be done in community, and being done under guidance and
Mhm.
wisdom. Um, like, I love your Dream Lab 2.0, like, this version that you have created, because I know, like you said, it was half baked when we did it. But I love the way you've constructed this, because it's mind, body, soul, and spirit, right? Like,
Yeah.
and I think that's another thing that gets lost in life, is we forget about how important every element of that is. Like, we forget about how to intentionally take care of our mind health, our body health, our spiritual health. Like, we can get so wrapped up in the chaos of life,
Mhm.
in the constant of life, that we forget that we must be intentional about our wholeness. And I think the Dream Lab is very much about our wholeness, about our shalom, shalom. And the way you have outlined this, it forces people to be in pursuit of that,
Mhm.
and that can go decades untouched unless you're intentional about it, unless you make a decision to pursue it.
Mm.
And that's what I love about what you did. You kind of stopped life for a second, and you said, and it didn't take forever.
Yeah.
It was a few sessions, but you, like, stopped life for a second. You said, "Okay, let's just put it on hold. Let's create this quiet space, and let's pursue this excellence of thinking and dreaming and determining what I'm made for." And if we don't do that, we can get to the end of our life and, like, really have regrets,
Yeah.
really have regrets. And you do need permission, and you do need an invitation, and you do need encouragement to take those steps. And so I'm going to say everyone, 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 no matter what phase. And because it's a really important life pursuit
Mhm.
to just come home to yourself and be at peace with yourself.
Mm.
And that's what this does, you know?
Okay. Wow, you just said something that really hit me, and I feel like we all struggle with this on some level, to some
Mhm.
extent, some of us worse than others, and that is, do we really know who we are? Do we really love ourselves unconditionally? Can we look
Mhm.
into our own eyes in the mirror and say, I love you, and you are worthy of living a life that God made you to live,
Yes.
worthy in alignment with your design?
Right. Right.
Which is not to say that we all go through seasons where we've had to, do something that we necessarily didn't want to do, but we have responsibilities in life. And
Mhm.
so I'm not saying
Yeah.
that we abdicate our responsibilities in any way, but the invitation that the Dream Lab offers someone to peek inside their own hearts, to learn a new facet of the way of their divine design, or
Yes.
even like for you and for Chelsea and and for even a few of the other participants, they had tucked a dream away really deeply and locked it.
Mhm.
They locked it away deep inside their hearts, thinking it was impossible or that's not practical or for whatever reason, fill in the blank. There's 1,000 reasons.
Yes.
And the Dream Lab gave them permission to pull that out of the locked closet and bring it up into the light and say, God, I really, really would like to have this. Um, and for each person, that was something very different. But I think you hit on something so beautiful. Is it just interesting to hear how differently you answered that question than Chelsea answered that question? Because Chelsea's greatest gift from the Dream Lab was clarity.
Mm.
And what I'm hearing from yours is the intentionality. Like, you have to be intentional about engaging this process, and in so doing, you get to meet yourself.
Yes. And I think, that goes back to this journey between and this relationship between dream and destiny. I as as a new yaya to be, been praying over my grandbaby to be in the womb. And so I've been meditating on the scriptures about how our plans were already written before
Mhm.
God's plans for us were already written before we were even born. He knitted us together, and his fingerprints, his plan, his specific, unique plan for us who are fearfully and wonderfully made, that's been divinely written and like lives in heaven as as a scroll. It's like
Mhm.
written on a scroll. Who we are, what we're made for, these plans and purposes of God. And I think I've been thinking about that so much, about that for my grandson who is yet to be born. And so it focuses me on, I'm halfway through my life. I don't want to miss my scroll.
Yeah.
I don't want to get to the end of my life and half of my scroll has been erased. I want to get to the end of my life and know that I hit the mark
Mhm.
of what God originally planned and purposed for me.
Yeah.
And unless you're intentional, unless you're sacrificial, and unless you're surrendered and humble, you can't walk that out.
Mhm.
And so I'm really grateful because the Dream Lab started that process for me. I mean,
Mm.
like it jump started it. I think
Mhm.
we're always, no, Bobby, no, no, no. Oh my, sorry, my little puppy dog just walked in.
That's okay. We're only recording
Oh,
audio. Hi, Bobby G.
oh my goodness. All right,
Is
here's
that
my pup.
Olio?
This is Olio. Come on,
Oh,
Oli. Come on,
I
Oli.
wish I was recording video right now. That little pup
She's
is
the
so cute.
She is the cutest ever. Okay, anyway, she wanted to be part of this. But
Okay.
anyway, yeah, so that's been a real journey I've been on lately since being a grandmother. Just been thinking about that,
Mhm.
and I am really grateful because it it did launch the journey of intentionality,
Mhm.
and it's been growing and expanding ever since. Um, but it is hard to find time to carve out those moments and, like, realign. Like, I've been kind of realigning myself recently,
Mhm.
but I would love to do it again and, like, realign with you, you know?
Oh, let's
Be
do it. I have the
Yeah,
time now.
yeah, because I'm realizing, like, how important it is.
Yeah.
How important it is to make sure that you are aligned with your divine plan and purpose
Mhm.
that is written from the beginning of time, right? Like, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
That's that's no joke. Like, that's literally the meat of life, you know?
Yeah.
So, I'm really grateful. I'm really grateful to, like, be on the journey, continue the journey, and that we started the journey together,
Oh gosh.
you know? I mean, but, like, if you look back at mine, like, I had that moment in New York when I turned 40, where it's like, wow, I need theater. That was like a sort of like
Yeah.
a divine moment. Like, oh, I'm big enough, God's big enough to do both. You can do film and theater. You can hold space for both, Elkin.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until we did our lab that I got activated in really tangible ways to pursue that at a higher level, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I was taking some steps, but there wasn't vision around it.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until we did our lab and then Marion came into play that there was vision around that. And
Yeah.
then going back to what you were saying, like, what does it look like? Your imagination. What do you see?
Mm-hmm.
So doing the lab allowed me to see and have vision for how to walk that out.
Mm.
It'd been a little vague until then.
Yeah. So good. So it gave you an opportunity to see more clearly, and it was confirmation of something that you feel like
Yes.
God had already sort of dropped into your soul in that New York 40th birthday celebration.
Exactly.
That's
Yes.
so cool. I love it.
Yes.
Okay, just a couple more questions. Um, I really want to hear what you have to say. What do you think stops people from living their dreams?
Um, I think fear, for sure. I think fear is a big one.
Mhm.
I think lack of confidence.
Yeah.
I think confidence has been a big one.
Mhm.
Insecurity, which is the same as lack of confidence. I've been on like a real journey of finding my confidence in Christ and in myself. Um, Being able to just be at home with myself, be at peace with myself, not having to prove anything to anyone
Mhm.
or myself, you know?
Yeah.
Um, I would say that would be that from my point. I'm sure there's more, but that's just my perspective. That's what
Yeah.
would stop me.
What advice do you have for people who may be longing for something more, or people who know for sure they're not living their dreams? What encouragement or advice do you have for them?
I mean, that goes back to like what we sort of started with. Do it now, don't wait. Do it now.
Mhm.
Do not wait. Because it is a journey. Like I described like such a journey where like it took some time and understanding for my dreams to turn into destiny and for me to be able to like make sense of them. And that is a process. So take the first step now.
Mhm.
Just take that first baby step now and then see what happens. But I
And
think the first step is the lab because
the dream lab, yeah.
it wouldn't have happened without that.
Well, my hope is to, in having these conversations, generate a lot of interest and desire through the podcast,
Yeah.
that then I can just start my next class, my next Dream Lab course through people who just want to do it in community, whatever that looks like.
I mean, I dream for you, Christina, and
I
and
know. I know.
and and I just feel genuinely like this is not like a shameless plug. I feel genuinely like this needs to be anywhere and everywhere
Yeah.
because it's that important for people to come around this sacred space and do this.
Yeah.
And because I think it's too easy to not be on point and not be on purpose in life.
Yeah.
And it's funny because like I wrote out a list of I ams recently that had nothing to do with I forgot that we did I am. But my I ams are I am on track, I am on point, I am on purpose. Those are on my top 3. And um I just think that we need that in life right now, especially now. And
Yeah.
because it's so easy to get distracted.
Yeah.
It's so easy to be overcome by circumstances, what's going on in the world. Um, and it's harder and harder to sort of stay in our lane and focused and intentional about who we are and what we're made for. So we
Mhm.
really do need that support, and we need the launching of that so that it's a muscle that's exercised
Mhm.
with intentionality, and so I do think it's very important to do this.
Yeah, I think the pandemic was a wake-up call for a lot of people and
Mhm.
was the invitation that they needed to reassess what their lives were all about and where they were headed.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
so good. Okay, any final thoughts or words of encouragement? Is there anything that you would have liked me to ask you that I didn't?
Oh gosh, I don't think so. Um,
What would you say to somebody right now? Because you are probably you're even a bigger encourager than I am. Like, encouragement is one of my natural gifts, but for you, I feel like God, like, gave that to you in spades.
so sweet.
What would you say right now to anyone who just might be really struggling or have a deep longing, but not know, like, what to do? How would you bless them?
I'm just gonna read. I actually wrote something down under that question, and I said, "See where your dreams lead you and take that first step, or you'll never know."
Mm, yeah.
So I just think that first step was so divine. Like, that's my encouragement, is just to take the time to do this, commit to it, take that first step, see where it leads, see where your dreams lead you, and take the first step, or you'll never know.
Mm, so good.
So important, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. And I don't think anyone would want to look back at the end of their lives and ask, "What if I had done this or that?"
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, there's only one of each of us,
Yeah.
and we each have a unique plan and purpose. We have one set of fingerprints, and with
Mhm.
that one set of fingerprints, we have one opportunity to make an imprint on the world. Like, what is that imprint that we are specifically called to make
Yeah.
in our uniqueness, in our wonderfulness? And I just think that that is uber important. I've actually always been one of those people that, like, whenever I'm on set or almost anywhere I go, like, if I see someone doing something that is like, wow, this person is working so hard, but I know that what they're doing is not their dream, you know,
Mm,
that I always want to ask them, like, what do you really want? Like, what do you dream about?
yeah.
What is your deepest longing? Because it's inside of all of us,
Yeah.
but we have to activate it. We must activate it because we could just go week after week, year after year, decade after decade, and
Mhm.
never touch upon it. And then we do get to that place at the end of our lives where we look back, and that's the worst, is regret.
Mhm. Yeah.
That's the worst, to regret where you've wasted time or lost time. And all time can be redeemed, and everything can be redeemed. And that's where we do trust in the divine and something bigger than us.
Mhm.
So there is redemption anywhere, but I would I would much rather be taking these intentional steps and not looking back over decades of loss,
Yeah.
what I missed.
Yeah. I love that so much. I think one of my greatest fears is getting to heaven and God saying, like, "Oh my gosh, there's so much more I wanted to give you."
Mine too. Mine
But
too. I don't want, yes, I don't want that to happen. I really I
I wanted to bless you so lavishly with
yeah.
opportunities and open doors in these areas to give you the desires of your heart as an outworking of our personal relationship. And but for whatever reason, we talked earlier in the conversation about, like, what holds people back and, fear of the unknown. And I think what I've heard you say so clearly, and it's helpful for me in knowing how to communicate what the Dream Lab is to people, is that this is really an invitation for them to look in their own hearts and see like like it's a you get to as opposed to have to. Like you get to see the beautiful ways that God made you and the desires that he placed there. And what if you believed that those things that God put in your heart for right now are actually not only for you, but they'll bless the people around you.
Yes. And that reminds me, like, what you're saying is like, we can be held back by our lack of belief and
Mhm.
by our lack of understanding that we are so deeply loved
Yes.
and God is
Yeah.
so massively big. I mean, that was like my first point of revelation at 40 was like, I was limiting myself and God to, I can only be in this one lane. I
Mhm.
have committed to supporting my husband in film for the last, I think it was at that point 15 years or whatever.
Mhm.
And which means there's no space for theater. And that was my biggest point of change and transformation that started my journey with you and started all of this is that, oh no, life is big enough to hold more than what I am imagining in my head.
Right.
I can expand the vision to a greater understanding than I've ever seen before if I just believe it, if I just hold the space for it and trust that God in his goodness and his grace and his love wants to give me all the desires of my heart,
Yeah.
not just half, but all. That he actually placed them in me. I may not understand them all and I may have to go on a journey to get there,
Mhm.
but to be able to hold them with the understanding of belief and love was a huge part of that journey and continues to be a part of that journey.
Yeah.
Receiving. My husband's always talking about this. It's all in the receiving. It's all in the receiving. And so to be able to open my hands and just walk out my life in the receiving, that's that's part of it. That's such a huge part of my journey now.
Mm, so good. Where can people find you?
I'm not like a real big social media person, but they can find Marion.
Yes, that's what I wanted you to talk about.
Okay. Yeah. So the Instagram is Marion_musical, and you
Okay.
can follow our journey there. And it's been since we started this lab. So, it was
Oh.
a slow it in 2016 when we started this, it was just at the very crackling genesis. And now we are on a beautiful intentional trajectory towards Broadway. And I say that without it feeling like a pipe dream now. There's actually like plan and things in place and they have to like fully come to fruition and they have to fully manifest. But it's a really beautiful plan and the team has grown from Chelsea and I, um, two people who wanted to do this. Well, it started with me who wanted to do it, and then Chelsea showed up. I don't know if she ever told that story. We'll tell that story on the Marion podcast because it's a really fun story. But it started with the two of us, and now we are a writing team of five multi-generational, um, multicultural women,
Mhm.
and um, and we are a producing team of like, oh my gosh, maybe there's like seven of us
Okay.
on the producing team. We have a director, we have a choreographer, we have general management, we have like so many partners and people working with us, like theaters and educational institutions, and like it's just really grown. Like we are a massive family. We are a massive collective now of artists and entrepreneurs and who are devoted to this musical and to telling the story in a monumental way. So it's very exciting.
Oh, I love it. And what's the website?
The website is marionmusical.com.
MarionMusical.com. I will make
Yeah.
sure to put links to those things in the show notes.
Thank you, love.
Elkin, you're amazing. I deeply appreciate your time and for you just going deep and being vulnerable all over again. It's like we were in another Dream Lab. Being vulnerable and sharing your heart with my audience, and it's my desire, and I know it's one that you share, that people will hear this and be inspired and take that as an invitation that it's okay for you to dream. It's okay for you to look inside your own heart and to discern, like, what did God make me for in this season right now? What are my dreams right now in this season, and how can I take a baby step towards it so that God can meet me where I am? And
Yes,
then
amen.
like like when you step on the little door at Walmart and it swings open, and on the inside, the guy is there to greet you saying, "Welcome to Walmart," where God can meet you where you are and open doors that you couldn't ever conceived of. So
So
I
true.
appreciate your time. Thank you so
I
much.
appreciate you and I love you, and
I
I'm so
love you
grateful you're
too.
doing this. The
Now
world
go
is a
plan your
better
Sunday
place.
supper menu.
Okay, I will. Great idea.
You should start putting little videos out of you, like, shopping in the kitchen. That'd be cute.
I'm gonna have to. I don't know if that's on the list, but Sunday supper definitely is.
Aw. All right, give my love to everybody.
I will. Love
Bye,
you so much.
sweetie.
Bye.